Hello, I am Jonathan Crook, Print Technical Consultant for HP. In this training video, I will quickly show you how to import a custom address book or custom user accounts into the FutureSmart 5 firmware platform on our enterprise class devices. Depending on your model and firmware level, some features or buttons may not be available. Today, I'm using an enterprise class 6 series device with flow features running FutureSmart 5.8. So in some cases, you may not want to add all the users for scanning in the address book or users for authentication, and or you're importing or you need to import from another manufacturer and adding them all to one machine and then exporting it out can be a little bit time consuming depending on the number of users. So there is a way to create a custom list to import into our devices. And so one of the things I do recommend is create a single user inside the device that you want to import into, because that helps create a template. And so for this training video, what I've done is I've added a single address for scan to email and fax under the scan digital send contacts, and under security for access control for any kind of authentication users, I added a singular user here. So once you have those users in place, you're going to go to the General tab, go to Export, and what we're going to do is we're going to select the local contacts, and we're going to select the local or the user address code. If you watched my last video, it does require an encryption key when you export out anything with FutureSmart 5. Now, good thing to note is that with something like the address book for scanning, scan to email, scan to folder, or the address or the user accounts, the encryption key is not actually used. The encryption key is going to be used for password information, user accounts and password information. But because we're not doing anything like that, it's not going to be required here. So what we're going to do is we're going to export it out, and it is going to basically give me a zip file. Now, for keeping this video short, I've already kind of set this up a little bit. So our export file looks like this. It's a zip file, and inside are going to have the address book for scanning and the PIN user import for the user accounts for authentication. What you're going to want to do in most cases, because sometimes in a Windows environment, it may open up in a protected state, is you're going to want to export out those files, export them out of the zip into a folder, and then you're going to want to remove the protection on the files depending on Windows and what kind of security is built into it through your company organization. So once you've done that, you're going to open up those files. And first, I'm going to start with the user accounts. And you can see here, user accounts has 5 columns. Technically, only 3 of them are required. One of them is going to be the name. The second one is the PIN code. And the third one, which you're more than likely going to copy and paste, is the permission sets. Permission sets are how we can control different groups of users, and that might be in another video upcoming explaining this a little bit more. But in most cases, you're just going to copy and paste device users. So for user accounts for authentication, you're going to put their names in, and you're going to put their PIN codes in here. Now, you can always, and I do recommend doing an email address because it does help from a perspective of knowing who it is and stuff like that. But once you've done that, go ahead and save the file because we want to save it into the original as a CSV. Now, for the address book for scanning, the file is going to look a lot different. It's going to have a lot more columns, and I'm going to kind of walk you through it. So there are only 4 columns out of this whole file that are required for the import to work. The first one is record type, and in most cases, it's always going to be single. In fact, 99 times out of 100. So you're going to copy and paste this. The display name is also required. So you can see here I added an export training 2. And this is where you would put most of those users' names. You can always put them in the first and last name. But what's interesting about the address book is that none of these columns here are actually required for the import to work. So you can see here, email address is not required, folder paths are not required, none of that stuff. Obviously, in most cases, you're going to be putting email addresses in here. And one thing to note is when you are pasting them in from another list is make sure you try to paste it as a text file or paste it as text because sometimes Excel will create a hyperlink for these emails. And if it does, you're going to need to back that hyperlink out. If it is a hyperlink when you save it, it may not work on the import. Even though we're working with a CSV file, I have seen issues with it. So it's best to just back out the hyperlinks ahead of time. Now, the last two columns that are required are down here at the end, the address book type and the address book name. These more than likely will always say local for both, and so you're just going to copy and paste it. Our machines do have the ability to create multiple address books with multiple names, and that's where you might change this up. But in most cases, you're just going to copy and paste local all down, just like you see here. So once you've added in and copied and pasted those users' informations for the address book, you're going to click and save that file and close it out. Now you're going to want to rezip these two files or the singular file if you're only doing one or the other. You're going to rezip them as is right here. So you're going to right click, you're going to compress to a zip file. It's really important to note that when you create the zip file and you open the zip file, so this is the one I created earlier, it has the files in the root. If the files are inside of a folder inside of a zip, the import function will not work. So it's really important to make sure that these files are in the root of the zip file. But once you've created your zip file, as I've done here, you're going to go back into import. We're going to choose that file. So we're going to come in here, pin user. And again, while we required the encryption key on the export, you don't need it for this import because we're not encrypting any of the actual data for these custom address books, okay? And then, of course, we can merge with the existing address books or we can replace them all, right? Replace everything that's in there. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as merge. I'm going to hit import. So there is a way to take an address book of data from another manufacturer and put it into a file that you can import into an HP device for that address book or for user authentication. So you can see here the import was successful. So now if we go to my scan digital send and we go to contacts, you're going to see that second account is there with the email address. And then the security, access control. And you can see I have the second one down here for user accounts for authentication. So being able to create a custom list is possible. Best bet is to just put one in, export it first. That gives you that template to work with. I hope this has been informative for you. Have a great day.